So Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty expensive right now. Between the Little Knights and the Wanteds and the Horus packages, decks can cost you upwards of $1,000. Not everybody has $1,000 to drop on their hobby, and that's kind of what I'm going to provide for those players today. Is 5 decks that you can bring into January 2024 that'll have success at least the local level. So the first deck we're going to get into is Sky Striker. Now, all these decks I will provide in the description box down below in the export file, but let's get into this deck. This is Blind Second Sky Striker. The whole goal of the deck is to just let your opponent build a board and then break it down with our Sky Striker cards and then steal their boss monsters with Mind Control, Change of Heart, Snatch Steal, Triple Tactics Talent, and then just be able to link into our Dark and Lina, into our Charmers, or even sometimes into our Sky Striker Link 2s. The most expensive card in this deck is Azalea at $10. She's not necessarily like super needed, but she's definitely a huge power gap between not having her and having her. She's basically the poor man's Little Knight, so definitely a card that you would want to have. Mind Control is a card I'd really like to talk about because we have 3 copies of it now. We can steal their Little Knight, make Dark the Dark Charmer, and then take their Little Knight permanently, which is pretty broken. In addition to that, we can also Mind Control a Link 4, and then Zealantis can be made with just one Link 4 monster. So we can take it and then make Zealantis, and then co-link a Zeke under it, pop 2 cards, maybe Forbidden Droplet away the Zeke, clearing out our main monster zone, and allowing us to play our Sky Striker cards. We got to play 3 linkage in this deck. It allows us to OTK very consistently. If we see 2 of these cards, it's usually an OTK. We have 2 copies of Engage. It's basically Pot of Greed. And we have 3 copies of Upstart Goblin now because, hey, they put it to 3. So decks are at 37 again. And this just increases our spell count for our Sky Striker decks. So that's pretty much it that I'd like to talk about the deck. You know, we have Board Breakers, we have the Negates, and then the Sky Striker package. Area Zero and Pankratops have insane synergy together, being especially with Pankratops being at 2, being able to go Area Zero, target the Pankratops, chain Pankratops, pop a card, resolve the Area Zero, and then get a Sky Striker is just value. So, and then for the side deck, we do have the Game of Seals. For time, we are a blind second deck, so we're kind of at the mercy of our opponent a lot of the time. So 3 Mourner and 2 Spooky Dogwood for just in case we go into time. And we're, again, a blind second deck. Going first is not good for us. We can't really win if we go first in time, so that's not very healthy for us. So we definitely need to play cards like this. So for the next deck, we have Ignister. So a lot of you Math Mech fans are probably going to switch to this deck post banlist because this deck is still pretty good. It is basically 1 card combo the deck, being able to get you to the arrival and then just, you know, absolutely decimate players that aren't ready for cards like this. In addition to that, we get to play a bajillion hand traps, Ash, Valor, Nibiru, Imperm. We can side Droll. 3 Tactics. Tactics is the cheapest it's ever been, y'all. Please pick this card up now before you guys regret it. 3 Upstart Goblin, 3 Signet Mining, 3 the Field Spell. This just lets us get to what we need to get to as fast as possible. So this deck is super cheap, coming in at around $47 TCG player. I think it was a little over 47 once I put Tactics. I think it went to $53 or $54 when I put the Tactics in. So pretty cheap for as far as a Yu-Gi-Oh deck is concerned, especially with what the deck is able to do. Ending on Heat Soul plus a Towers is just super powerful, especially in a deck that can play 12 hand traps, you know. So, and then again, we have 3 Upstart Goblins, so our deck's at 37. So super solid budget option is Upstart Goblin is going to reduce your deck's cost by $3 every time. So for the next deck, probably going to be one of the most hated decks in the comments, is Flu. This deck is actually dirt cheap right now. You can pick this whole core up with the Prosperities, with the side deck, with the extra deck for about $48. So the deck is like dirt cheap right now. So with that being said, we do have the 3 Ash and Shifter and Imperm. We do not get to play the board breakers that we would like to play because Thrust is, you know, $90 plus right now. And with that being said, we need some way to interact with our opponent, so we do play Ash and the Imperm in this build. In addition to that, we have 3 duality, 1 extravagance, and 3 prosperity, just to increase that consistency. And then for time, in the side deck, we have the spooky dogwood. For breaking boards, we have 3 dark ruler, 1 feather duster, 2 lightning storm. To prevent our opponent from being able to spam spell cards, we have the 3 anti-spell fragrance. And to be able to beat the mid-rangey decks, we have the 3 D-barrier. The extra deck almost doesn't matter. The only card that really matters is Underworld Goddess to help us break the Pearly boards. And then if you do have access to Zeus, playing these cards is pretty helpful sometimes, being able to make a 4 material Zeus. But most of the time, it's just Tribute Summon, Unga Bunga stuff. So let's get into this next deck for you guys. This next deck is Sword Soul. So Sword Soul is just tried and true. This deck will not die. It is super consistent. It's probably the most consistent mid-range deck you can play. It rarely bricks, and even when it does, you can usually get some kind of board out of it. With that being said, we do have 3 copies of Moye, 3 Longyan, 2 Taye, and 3 Ecclesia. So we have 11 Sword Soul names, essentially, to be able to facilitate all of our combos. And then we are playing the Tenyi package. We have 2 Adhera, 3 Ashina, 1 Shitana, and 1 Vishuddha. We're playing 3 Heavenly Dragon Circle. This card allows us to dodge cards like Veiler, Imperm, sometimes Droplets if they didn't send a spell. We have 3 Desires now, 3 Sword Soul Emergence, 2 Tactics, and 3 Upstart Goblin. Again, dropping our deck down to 37 is pretty cool. So for our side deck, we have some board breakers, Cosmic Cyclone to be able to, excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Cosmic Cyclone to be able to interrupt certain floodgates, and 3-dimensional barrier again for those mid-range decks. For the extra deck, we have Dragite, Baron. Baron is dirt cheap right now. Please pick up the cards, the super rares from the rarity collection. If you are a budget player, you need cards like this from the rarity collection, because it's just going to get you to that next level to be able to compete with other players. 2 Baxia to spin back boards, 1 Chao Fang to play around Nibiru, Draco Berserker to help us break boards again, Chi Chao, Big Longyan, Chang Ying, Yazi, and then the Monk and Shaman. And the last deck we're going to talk about is Dogmatica Fire King. Now, this is actually not my favorite list of Fire King. However, it is very strong and very cheap for what it does. After you buy 3 structure decks, you only really need to invest about $18 to $25, give or take, including the side deck, to be able to go to your locals for $55 and just smack people around is pretty relevant. So let's get into the ratios. We are on a huge hand trap package because we don't get the wanted package. So we have 3 Ash, 3 Droll, 3 Veiler, and 3 Imperm. And then for the Dogmatica package, we're on 1 Ecclesia and 1 Fleur de Lis, because we can go ahead and search this card with our Ecclesia and then not lock ourselves out of the extra deck on the following turn. On our next turn, I should. And then we are playing Dogmatica Punishment in case we see the Fleur de Lis. We can go ahead and search this and still get the +1, and then have 1-2 interruptions just off of Ecclesia. Nadir's Servant is like the MVP of this deck because it lets us send Shureg, and Shureg lets us search for Ponix, and then the rest of the Fire King stuff is just blow up the board, the deck. So yeah, that's it for the Fire King deck, and that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys want to see another 5 budget decks, make sure you put it down in the comments below. You guys are incredible duelists. Keep it up. Make sure you guys are progressing yourselves. Get coaching. Talk to better players. They're not, they're not superstars. They're cool people. Talk to them. They will help you. You know what I mean? Definitely check out Learn TCG if you're looking to progress yourself to the next level of this game. With that being said, this is Gore signing off.